Well, welcome to this presentation about producing a documentary about your research, presented by Fred Steyer, core faculty at HOD, and myself as professor emeritus at Fielding. Fred always believes that video should be an integral part of your journey as a scholar practitioner. Your dissertation will be placed in ProQuest, but that is not sufficient to use your dissertation as a launching pad for your career or for boosting your career. Today's age, video is what matters. Video is really the way in which we communicate with one another on a global basis. So that's why we thought it was very important for us to have a seminar for you that shows how you can do a video, how you can produce a video about your research in a way that is affordable and relatively easy to use. So let us begin. As you know, I've been a faculty member with Fielding for over 20 years. I'm now retired as emeritus. But I've also had a film career for much of my professional life, including a period film called Manet Love, completely filmed as set in the 19th century with costumes and whatnot. It was quite a big of a headache, but it's a nice film. I also was involved in as director of the official biography of Walt Disney, Walt, the Man Behind the Myth, and that aired on ABC Network. It then went to Netflix, where it's been for several years, and now it's at Disney Plus. So we'll refer to that film throughout this seminar, which is a 2-hour feature biography of Walt Disney based on 77 interviews with people who either knew Walt personally or with historians and scholars. Operation Valkyrie was another docudrama based on the assassination attempt on Adolf Hitler at Wolfschanze, at the Wolf's Lair. That also entailed lots of period costumes, uniforms, German cars and military vehicles, even an aircraft. So that was a lot of fun to produce and very, very different from some of the other things I've done. But for the most part, I have done the things that you're interested in, which is documentaries based on my research. For example, the image right top is one of 3 films I produced about Leonardo da Vinci, including dramatizations, once again in period costume. The film that I'm going to show you a clip of is the one on the right bottom, In the Footsteps of Vincent van Gogh. And you may want to look at that series in its entirety, or at least the episode that we will be discussing, because it is very relevant to trying to make a documentary about research. And the way to get to that is to go to Prime Video, assuming that you are a subscriber to Amazon Prime Video. You can go to your laptop or your TV if you want to watch it on TV, and simply go to the search field with the little search icon, click on there, and enter my last name, Isbouts, Isbouts. And then you will see this screen. It also has a number of other productions that I am not involved with at all. I don't know why they show that when you do that entry of Isbouts. But other than several series on biblical history, I'm also a biblical scholar, you will find on the right bottom, In the Footsteps of Vincent van Gogh. So I recommend that after watching this seminar, you go to Prime Video and click on Isbouts, search for Isbouts, and then click on Vincent van Gogh, and you can choose an episode. The episode that we are going to analyze is the one that deals with Vincent in Arles, in the city of Arles. Well, filming technology has changed tremendously. I remember back in 2006 when we were filming, and we were filming in the new format called high definition, which was 1920 by 1080 pixels, which created that 16 by 9 format that made your TV not square, but rectangular. Remember that? When our TVs were square, well, now they're all rectangular, these flat screen TVs, which means that the aspect ratio of what we do in video has changed as well. So in 2006, I had to use this big, huge camera that you see there on the left with a cinematographer to achieve video in HD. Today, however, you can take your simple iPhone or your Galaxy Samsung. Much of what I'm going to be talking about is also relevant for the Samsung Galaxy, but I'll just refer to the iPhone Pars Pro Toto. And this little gadget, this is the iPhone 13 that I'm very attached to, shoots video now in twice the size of what we did in 2006. We call that 4K. 4K is a picture size of 3840 by 2160 pixels. So it's double the format that your TV will typically handle, even though many TVs now have 4K capability. But it's important because it allows you to film much sharper video than was ever before the opportunity. So we're going to talk about three video formats. One is if you want to do a quick promo about your research, you will probably do that with Instagram or TikTok. I'm not sure how long material stays on Instagram. I think it's only about a day or so, but it does go into your profile. Now, the important thing is that with Instagram or TikTok, you will shoot like this. Like many people do that in a vertical format, holding your phone like that. The problem is when you do that for other formats, such as your TV, it produces a strip with the left and side columns either blurred out or black or whatever the case may be. You see that at network TV at night, where they show video that people have typically taken of a fire or an accident, and they always shoot in this horrible vertical format. So when a television broadcast tries to reproduce that, it only shows a little sliver. So if you want to do a podcast, we're going to talk about podcasts about your research, or you want to do a video documentary, which is a longer form video, you never, never, never want to use your phone like this. It has to be filmed in a horizontal format. Can you see that? Now, this is the most important thing that you're going to have to take away from this seminar. Never, for podcasts or documentaries, shoot vertically. Always shoot horizontally so it fits the 16 by 9 screen of your laptop, of your TV, or any other device, such as an iPad that you might be using. Podcast videos that you may be producing, and we'll show you how, can be distributed on several platforms. There is Buzzsprout, which is very easy to use. They're really recommended for first-time people who want to try a podcast or a podcast series about their research. Spotify, obviously, also has an entry-level format to distribute your podcast. And of course, YouTube, which is free, that's the good part, and has a very, very large user base. I think it's around 800 million right now or something crazy. But chances are that your podcast quickly gets drowned in the flood of video that is being placed on YouTube. So for podcasts and for video documentaries, if you want to have a long form documentary, the platform I recommend is Vimeo, as you see on the bottom of the screen, vimeo.com. Vimeo.com is a level higher than YouTube. It doesn't have a lot of trash. It is typically preferred by professional filmmakers as well as by academics and scholars. It's a very clean interface. It's very easy to upload and to organize your videos. And it just has a more of a cachet in terms of quality presentation than YouTube, which, as we all know, is a free-for-all. Okay, so we're going to talk about these three formats. Now, as I said before, the vertical position is only for Instagram and TikTok. The horizontal position is for YouTube, Spotify, Vimeo.com, on all other 16 by 9 screens. Please don't forget that. This is very, very important for filming your video on your research. Now, how should you set your iPhone? On the iPhone, you go to Vimeo, you go to the camera icon, and the camera icon, you have a choice between photo and video. You always, of course, choose video. And once you are in your video setting, you can choose from various settings by clicking on the setting button. I would recommend you choose 4K. HD is all right, but once again, when you play it on large screens, it can get a little blocky, so why not shoot it on 4K? It uses a little bit more data, but the quality is definitely superior. You want to shoot at 30 frames a second, which I believe is the default, at least on my iPhone 13. You have to verify that on your iPhone or Galaxy. But the best format is 30 frames a second. And I will show you a part of a video I shot on the iPhone where I pan across the screen, or tilt up and down, tilt up and down. When you move like that, 30 frames a second makes it a lot more smoother. Also, I should tell you that the iPhone has an incredible stabilization feature. As you will see in one of the clips I will show you, I'm actually walking down a street in Arles, no gimbal, nothing special, just walking down, holding my iPhone while I'm walking down the street, and it is so smooth that it looks like I'm, working on a dolly or rails or something like that. So remember, that doesn't mean that you can just swap your iPhone around. Always try to keep your iPhone as still and as stable as possible. If you move very slowly. If you walk down the street, just try to keep your phone as stable as possible. But if you do that, the video will be incredibly smooth. Always select auto exposure, which is the default setting for the iPhone, auto exposure. Only in very, very rare cases do you want to manipulate the f-stop, as we would call as photographers, or the exposure on your phone. Always just rely on the iPhone to choose the best exposure that is there. Now, when you produce a podcast or you produce a documentary and you're talking on camera, it makes sense to select the reverse setting in your phone. Once again, when you're shooting in video mode, you can see that little bottom, depending on what iPhone release you have, which allows you to reverse the shot. So you're no longer filming what the camera sees, you're filming yourself in reverse. And the quality is amazing. The quality is the same. But I prefer that because when I shoot a podcast or a documentary with me on camera, I want to make sure that I'm properly framed in the picture. And the only way to verify that is to use the reverse setting. Also, very important is the background. Make sure that there are no dirty dishes in the background or a lot of junk. Make sure that there is no plant in the back that grows out of your head and all these things. So framing yourself is very important, and you do that by the reverse setting. Don't try to zoom too much. The iPhone is not great with zooming in. It gets a little pixelated. Now, many of you think of video as a visual image, and they sort of ignore the sound. And so here is rule number two: never, never, and never use the built-in microphone on your iPhone, or if you're doing a podcast on your laptop, never use that little microphone in your laptop because it will sound hollow. It will not sound professional. So you want to make sure that when you record yourself or an interviewee for that matter, that you use a external microphone. I call that a lavalier. A lavalier microphone has either a lightning or a USB-C cable, depending on what your iPhone uses. My 13 still uses lightning cables. My wife has a 16 or a 17, and she uses a USB-C cable. Regardless, there are lavaliers, and you see the picture on the top of the screen here that plug into your iPhone. Just make sure you get the right format. And when you get that lavalier, you literally plug it on the bottom of your iPhone, which is usually where you put your cable to charge your iPhone. So the same input, that's where your lavalier cable goes. And from that point on, the iPhone automatically recognizes that you're using an external microphone. So you can now speak, or your interviewee can speak, and you know for sure that the quality is going to be very, very good, very, very professional. These lavaliers go for 25, $30. It's really not an issue. Now, if you go and do field work, you will see me in the clip walking around. At that point, when you're outside, you may want to use a wireless lavalier, and you see that picture on the bottom that has that. You can see in the picture on the bottom at the far right is a little receiver which simply clicks on the bottom of your iPhone. That's it. It just clicks there, uh, in that same input that you would use for a wired lavalier. And then you can see you have two microphones. So if you interview someone, you can clip yourself and the person that you're interviewing. Or if you're just using yourself, you can clip that microphone on your jacket or blouse, fairly close to your mouth. So not all the way in the bottom near your belt, but fairly close to your mouth, like around here. And then you get wonderful audio that is transmitted to the transceiver on your iPhone. Do a test just to make sure that what you hear is correct and that it's receiving your audio. But then you can walk around and you'll be sure to have great audio. Tripods are just as important, particularly if your image is static. For example, you're filming yourself or you're filming an interviewee. You must use an iPhone tripod. You cannot do that holding your iPhone. It'll become very distracting. Yes, there is a stabilization feature, but if you're sitting yourself or with an interviewee, please, please, please use a tripod like I show you here. It must go as high as your face in case you're standing with someone, or it can go down, telescope down for if you're sitting with someone. And a special clamp that you can see on top there will hold your iPhone in place. And once again, you can choose to shoot forward or in reverse, depending on what you want your camera to see. It's really, I have a tripod that I think cost me $25, and I take it anywhere. It's very light. You can collapse it, put it in your backpack, or lift it all the way up. I use it on all my travels, and it just creates a very stable image for your shooting. Now, this is something we often see when we do Zooms with one another. We always have people who are looking at the camera with a big window behind them. So what we see is a silhouette. You don't want to do that. You don't want to put yourself against a very bright background. Use a neutral background. It could be a bookcase, it could be the wall in your office. I don't really care what it is, as long as it is not the primary transmitter of light. You want to be facing the light. Right now, I'm recording this with a window facing me. You can see the lighting on my face is very evenly lit because I'm literally looking towards a window rather than having a window behind me. You can also use a ring light that you see here. A lot of podcasters use these ring lights. Again, they are very cheap in the 20s or 30s. And with that, you can ensure that you get very, very good even light if you're filming at night or in a dark room. A simple ring light will handle that for you. Now, creating a podcast, I do a lot of podcasting using my laptop. And there are two ways to do it. I'll show you how you can do it by using a PowerPoint. You simply create a PowerPoint. Don't use too much text now. Use images as much as possible and just a few lines of text to remind you what you're supposed to be talking about when you have that slide up. But PowerPoints are a wonderful way to enrich your presentation with images and even video if you want to do that. There are two ways to record your podcast with a PowerPoint. One is to use the PowerPoint mechanism yourself. PowerPoint has a feature that allows you to enable your laptop camera and microphone to capture audio and the video through your webcam. Of course, once again, here I recommend that you use a wired lavalier for the quality of your sound. Right now, I'm not using that. I'm recording this seminar using the microphone in my MacBook, but just to show you what that can do, but I always recommend using a wired lavalier if you do a PowerPoint presentation for your podcast. So if you do that, you can navigate in your PowerPoint app to the Record tab on the top, and then you select Record Slideshow. Then all it takes for you to start the slideshow is to click the red record button and choose export to video to save an MP4 file. Or what you can do, which is what I usually do as I'm doing right now, you can use Zoom. You can open up your Zoom application, share your PowerPoint, and click record. Very simple, right? And then when you record, you should select record to your computer if you have enough space on your computer, which is a slightly better quality than if you say record to the cloud, which is still very good. Right now, I'm recording to the cloud because I want to share this link with you. But record to the cloud has slightly less quality. So it's your choice to either record to the cloud or record to your Zoom. If you want to see an example, you can go to my website, which is shown below, jpisbouts.org/podcasts. That's it. jpisbouts.org/podcasts. It has over 2,000 views. So I guess word of my research about this particular book, which was a book on the historical Jesus called In the Footsteps of Jesus, published by National Geographic, is getting some traction. And indeed, it's a best-selling book. So now let's take a look at that video that I talked to you about. This is the video, an excerpt from episode 9 or 8, I believe, about Vincent van Gogh going to Arles in the south of Florence. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this is because other than the drone footage that you see here, which I licensed from a French supplier, other than the drone footage, everything was shot with an iPhone 13. The reason being that when I produced this TV series, it was during the height of the pandemic. And I could not get a camera crew in Arles. I could get one in Paris, and I used one in Holland and in Belgium, camera crews, but I could not get a camera crew in Arles. There simply weren't any during the pandemic. So I was forced to use my iPhone, and the results were surprisingly good. I used the tripod, I used the lavalier, as you will see. And so I'll leave it up to yourself to what you think of the results. So here we go. It's a 4-minute excerpt from the episode of Vincent van Gogh going to Arles.
The first order of business was to find a place to stay. He made his way from the railway station to a nearby square called the Place Lamartine. To his right, just beyond a small park, was the majestic flow of the Rhône River. Up ahead was the entrance gate of the old town, and passing through it, he found himself on the Rue de la Cavalerie. Here, at number 30th, was a bistrot, the Restaurant Carrel, with rooms to let on the second floor. Vincent promptly rented a room. It was still cold outside, but Vincent couldn't contain his curiosity and decided to explore his new town. Walking down the Rue de la Cavalerie, he came upon the Place Voltaire and the city's claim to fame, the magnificent Roman amphitheater. Arles was known as Arelate in Roman times. In 48 AD, it had backed Julius Caesar in his civil war with the Roman general Pompey, and after Caesar emerged victorious, the city was showered with favors. The amphitheater was built more than a century later, in 90 AD, on the model of the Colosseum in Rome. It could hold 20,000 spectators who flocked to the arena to see gladiator battles or chariot races.
Vincent was suitably impressed, not in the least because the arena was being used for bullfighting, as it is right now. Later that year, he would paint the local crowds watching the bull ring in a stark, flat style inspired by Émile Bernard.
Just behind the amphitheater, Vincent came upon another reminder of the city's prominence in ancient times, the Roman theater, built during the time of Augustus in the early 1st century, with room for some 10,000 people. From here, Vincent turned into the Rue de la Calade that led to the Place de la République. There, next to the grandiose Hôtel de Ville, the city hall, stood a jewel of French Romanesque architecture, the church and monastery of Saint-Trophime.
There's a Gothic portico here that I'm beginning to like, but it's also cruel, monstrous even, like a Chinese nightmare. Even a beautiful monument in so grand a style belongs to another world, it seems to me. And I'm glad I'm not a part of it, just as I'm glad I don't belong to the glorious world of Emperor Nero.
Just outside the old city walls was a Roman necropolis known as Les Alicants, a word that has its roots in the Latin version of Elysian Fields, or Champs-Élysées in French. Roman custom did not allow the burial of the deceased within the city limits, which is why Roman tombs were usually built along the main roads leading to the city, as in the Via Appia in Rome.
Vincent was quite intrigued by this park-like setting and even went to a local museum which, as he wrote, had a wonderful collection of ancient sarcophagi from this Roman burial ground. Later that year, Vincent chose this location of Les Alicants to paint an impression of falling leaves.
Well, that was a little look at what an iPhone can do. And I was amazed when I got back to the studio and looked at the footage that I had shot. It looked in 4K. It looked absolutely stunning and in many ways not distinguishable from the footage that I had shot with professional camera crews at other places in France, as well as in Holland and Belgium. So it fit perfectly well. So your iPhone or your Galaxy smartphone is a wonderful device to create a video documentary. Now, how do you do a documentary? We talked about TikTok, we talked about podcasts, but a real documentary, of course, needs some planning. And there are Fred and I discussed this, and there are really two ways to do this. One is to script it. So you voice over the material that you shoot, once again, with a lavalier microphone. You can record that in a quiet place in your house, in your home, in your apartment, in a quiet time in the day. You can just read the voiceover based on a script you've written. For example, here is a script excerpt from what we just saw from the trip to Arles. And then when you have a script outline, you begin to tell your story. Typically, what I do is I open a documentary with an introduction. What motivated your choice of this subject? Which is very much similar to what you would do in a dissertation, right? In your introduction, you would say, why did I choose this subject? And why is it important? Why is it unique? Why is your research question relevant to this particular problem or your research subject? What made your research unique? These are things that you want to address in your script. And then what I do in the films, and I have appended some links, I will show it to you in a minute, of a scholarly film I produced about my research on Leonardo da Vinci. I present my evidence. Evidence number one, what I found, what it means. Evidence number two, evidence number three. And that's how I basically build the documentary, going from one piece of evidence to the next until we come to our conclusion. And what does it mean? What did my research mean for the scholar practitioner or even for general viewership? Why is watching this video of interest, and what can you learn from it? This is sort of your basic structure for a documentary about your research. And this is a documentary based on original research, The Mystery of the Last Supper, which is based on my discovery of a second version of Leonardo's famous painting, The Last Supper, which is in Milan. But guess what? I found that Leonardo and his workshop painted a second version for the King of France, Louis XII. And that canvas, it was painted on canvas, so it could be brought across the Alps, still hung, when I discovered it, in a Belgian abbey near Antwerp for 400 years. And after I saw the painting and recognized that it could not be a copy, but had to be from Leonardo's workshop, with Fielding's support, I asked two separate laboratories in Belgium to conduct tests, what we call infrared reflectography, which looks underneath the painting, underneath the oil, into the background, into the underdrawings and so forth. And we were able to establish, without a doubt, that this painting was indeed painted by Leonardo and his workshop in Milan, probably between 1506 and 1508, based on the extant evidence that I found in various archives in Belgium and France. So it's sort of a thriller. It's sort of a thriller in search of, but it's been airing around the world for 5 years now. It's still an active broadcast in all kinds of places around the world. And here is the link. It's sort of a very long link, but I can only share the link with you because I cannot make it public because, again, it's still being aired, broadcast publicly. But I'll make sure that you have that link separately with this recording. Another way to do a documentary based on your research is to do an interview. You can do an interview with yourself. What you could do, for example, is write questions for yourself and then ask a friend or relative or partner, spouse, to ask you those questions, and you film yourself as you answer them. A lot of people are more comfortable with that rather than memorizing a script or reading from a script. They want to just spontaneously talk about their research. And the wonderful way to do that is to get prompted by questions. You can do that yourself, or you can interview other people about your research. And then using very simple editing tools, you can cut out the question part and simply focus on your story. We'll talk about editing tools in a minute. As always, good lighting, good audio is key. Don't forget that. Good audio, good lighting is key. Please take care that it looks good. For example, here, this is an excerpt from a film that I'll share with you in a minute, which is called Voices of Feeling. And here I interviewed a clinical psychology student called Donica Harper. And look how carefully we lit her face. So it's what we call trois quarts lighting. The lighting source is coming from her left side, but it sort of caresses her right side. So you can really get a wonderful three-dimensional lighting of Donica's face as she talks about her research. Now, you obviously, or many of you, have interviewed people as part of your qualitative research. And your question is, and I see it already in the chat box, can I use the interviews that I used for my dissertation research? And the answer is no. You can use the text that appears in your dissertation, but the whole point of an IRB protocol is to make sure that you don't give any indication as to the identity of the people that you interviewed, your participants, as part of your research. What you can do, however, is take the text that is in your dissertation of the testimonials from your participants and have somebody else read it. Okay? You cannot use the audio that you yourself recorded from that person because that could identify the person. But you can take the text and have somebody else read it and integrate it into your documentary. I use voiceover artists all the times. You can get them on 5R with 2Rs.com or upwork.com. Also, if you do a little Google search, you can now find several programs, apps that will take your text and do a wonderful voiceover for you using AI. You can pick the quality of the voice, male, female, dark or light. You can pick any character voice that they have licensed, feed them the text from your dissertation, and you will get an audio file that is AI generated, but sounds very human. I tried it once, and I was impressed with the quality of this AI generated voice. And the benefit is that if you do that, there is no way on earth that anyone could identify the original participant's identity. So that's how you can handle the interview segments from your qualitative research. If, however, you interview someone on camera, live, then you have to use an appearance release form that you see here. It's very important legally that if you interview someone, whether it's on the street or somewhere in your home or somewhere in your school or whatever, whomever you interview for your documentary must sign an appearance release form. If you want the full text of this appearance release form, you can either take a screenshot right now of this slide, or you can write to me and I will send you the Word file. My email, I'm sure you know, is jisbouts@fielding.edu, jisbouts@fielding.edu, and I will be happy to send you this appearance release form as a Word document. Now, the question is, if I am standing in a park or I'm standing on the street and I just want to have a general view of people coming by, do I need an appearance release form for these people? The answer is no. If you are in a public place, not in a conference, not in a symposium, in a private setting, but in a public place, such as a park or a street or anything like that, you can film these people and you will not need an appearance release form. Things change when you film somebody crossing a crosswalk, for example, and you ask that person, oh, I didn't get it right. I didn't get it right. Could you please do that again? Now you're directing. Now you are directing. And if you are directing that person to do anything you'd like to do, now you need an appearance release form. Do you see the difference? So if you just stand there as a neutral observer and you film people doing their business in a public place, not in a supermarket, in a public place, you don't need an appearance release form. You do need that if you go into a conference, for example, and you want to film the conference, then you either have to announce as part of your presentation that the video is being filmed, and if anyone has a problem with that, to just move outside of the camera's point of view. Fielding does that all the time. In the Fielding summer or winter session, typically there will be a sign in front of the seminar room that says, please note this seminar is being recorded on video or on camera. And that's another way of doing it. Just make sure that your people know. Okay? Okay, so a documentary based on interviews is very easy to find. You go to vimeo.com, and because it's a public video file, go to vimeo.com and simply search for The Voices of Fielding. The Voices of Fielding. That is a film I produced in 2024 based on interviews with students and alumni, young and old, all programs, to basically give you an idea of the culture at Fielding and how people experience the teaching and life with Fielding, basically. So that documentary is entirely based on interviews, and you can see how we lit that, how we recorded that. Tim DeBolt was my cinematographer, and you can see that on Vimeo. Okay, stock footage. As you saw, I use stock footage in my oral segment. I use stock footage a lot. My preferred provider is envato.com. You pay $235 a year, but you get unlimited downloads, all you can eat. Same with story blocks. Same thing. They're a little bit more expensive. If you want just individual downloads, you don't need to spend a lot of money. You just want an individual shot of, I don't know, a river, right? You want a shot of a river. You go to shutterstock.com or pond5.com. And there you can do an individual download anywhere ranging from $35 to $55, basically. If you don't want to pay anything, which is, of course, a wonderful option, your selection is probably a little bit more limited, but pexels.com, as shown here, and mixkit.co are two sources where you can have a range. They're very good about nature shots. So if you want a shot of a flower or forest or a river or an ocean, you can download free footage from those sites. You probably have to, get a registration, but the downloads are free. So, of course, they make their money, but I'm sharing your information with various advertising and advertisements. So anyway, that's how you get free footage. Very important, stock footage. Here is the menu of Envato and how you can pick. It's a wonderful application. I use it, and the quality of the material is absolutely wonderful. Music, you've probably heard, I hope the audio came through of the oral segment. You obviously heard that I used music that Vincent van Gogh conceivably could have heard. So all the music in the Van Gogh series is period music from the 19th century. And I found that music, on the one hand, on a very professional site, which cost thousands of dollars. But I had a budget to do that TV series. So I'm not going to talk much about that. It's called APM. APM is the principal provider of music to Hollywood movies. So that's why it's fairly expensive, but very good music. APM, very good quality music. If you just want to have what we call needle drop music, very nice music, symphonic, pop, hip hop, whatever you're looking for, you can go to audiojungle.net. You can enter into the search field the type of music you're looking for, and they give you a range of clips. You can listen to the clips, and then you can purchase it one by one. And I've got great music there for 15 bucks. A great recording of a piano piece by Fauré, I think it was, 15 bucks. So it's very affordable. But please use music. Please use music. It lifts the quality of your presentation. It gives it an emotional depth. And it often tells you where to put in the highs and the lows of the music, depending on where your documentary narrative is at. audiojungle.net. Finally, editing. The gold standard for Hollywood, as well as in our studio where I produce our films, is Adobe Premiere. There is a bit of a learning curve, but I taught it myself. Yes, my cinematographer helped me a little bit, I must confess. But by and large, I hate manuals. Manuals are not written for people. They're written for engineers. I mean, I never saw a manual I liked, so I throw the manual away. And I just figure it out. I just go in and figure it out. And that's how I became a fairly good editor on Adobe Premiere. All my TV series right now are edited on this platform. Adobe Premiere has a discount for students. Typical pricing is for regular folks is around $280, $300 per year. So it's not cheap, but there is a substantial discount for students. If you don't want to need all those bells and whistles, then use Adobe Premiere Elements, which is a much simplified version, very easy to use, $100, either Windows or Mac, depending on your platform. And you can learn that in an afternoon, and you'll be very comfortable with it, and you can quickly edit your documentary, put music under the voice, not too loud, but just music under the voices, and you create a beautiful documentary. Other formats are Apple iMovie, which comes with a Mac. I don't like it. I think the interface is very poor. But anyway, it's free if you have a Mac, Apple iMovie. Mac and Windows also has a program called Filmora, which is from Wondershare Filmora, which is very similar to Adobe Premiere, basically, two screens, one your preview, one your editing field. $69.95, so fairly affordable. And then I'm told Adobe Express is free. With Adobe, I always put a little question mark there because nothing is free with Adobe. But try it. Maybe there is a browser-based online version of Adobe Express. Anyway, all these things, other than Adobe Premiere, the full-fledged version, has a very short learning curve. So, you know, certainly by the end of the weekend, you are a very comfortable and professional editor. This is just in closing an example of what someone did, in this case, Terry Hildebrand, posting videos about his research. In this case, it was the book Innovations in Leadership Coaching, which had multiple contributors, and Terry was very insistent and said, you know, you guys, you wrote a chapter. I want you to do a video about your chapter. And he did. And it's posted on YouTube, and as well as the YouTube channel at Fielding. And guess what? Innovations in Leadership Coaching is our top-selling book 5 years running. Our top-selling book at Fielding Press, which I'm running as managing editor, and it is still our top-selling book. So we are very grateful for Terry and his contributors for making a video, a documentary about. In this case, each of the contributors just talk about their chapter, just free form. Well, I wrote a chapter on this subject. Let me tell you what it's about. 4 or 5 minutes, and it really, really boosted sales for this particular book. So final takeaways, guys. Be patient. If it doesn't work out the first time you try it, whether with recording or audio or editing, just take multiple takes, learn simple tools, don't get discouraged. You know, I didn't become a filmmaker from one day to the next. I actually became a filmmaker when I was 16, and I found my father's 8mm camera in the attic. I dusted it off, and I learned how to load 8mm film into the camera. And then I made an animated film about the moon landing of Apollo 11, which was all the rage at that time when I was 16 or 17. I think. I made an animated film of Apollo 11 using a rocket that I had pieced together from a kit. And it was aired on Dutch TV as part of a separate program about people's home movies. They really thought it was pretty cool. So, of course, I've been doing this for a very, very long time. But, you know, be patient with yourself, and you will learn. The more you use video, the more familiar you will become. Fred will agree with me. You know, if you use it on an ongoing basis about your research, not just once, but multiple podcasts, multiple documentaries, every new version will be better. Okay? Every new version will be better. Every new edition will be better. And you'll become very, very comfortable. It's just like writing. You don't become a good writer from one day to the next. You do it through training. You train yourself. And the same goes for video. I just show you this poster of the feature movie feature biography movie, Walt, the Man Behind the Myth, based on 77 interviews I shot with a full camera crew on a soundstage in Hollywood. Some people who knew Walt very well were very old. One had to be brought in by ambulance. But I gathered 77 interviews, and it's a wonderful portrait of Walt. It's also the very, very first theatrical motion picture in the United States that was edited with a laptop-based editing program, in this case, Apple Final Cut Pro in 2001. And for a while, Apple invited me to their annual Apple Fest to talk about the film, because I'm the first director ever to do an online program using online, of course, their Apple Final Cut Pro for a theatrical film. The film was theatrical, it was premiered in Monaco, Monte Carlo, as well as the Telluride Film Festival and various other festivals before it was broadcast on ABC. So you can see, I didn't read any manuals. I just started and figured out Apple Final Cut Pro, and look, it got me awards and various broadcast deals. Mixing music, again, is very important to enhance the emotional quality of your story. So take a look at Audio Jungle and see what you can find. And check to see how many views you have. You know, it's a wonderful boost for your ego as a scholar practitioner to see, oh my God, 100 people looked at my documentary, whether it's on Vimeo or YouTube or Spotify or whatever. It's wonderful to see the stats and to see how your film has an impact. Okay, I'm going to answer in conclusion a few questions from the chat box. What happens if other people are in my video? I think I answered that question. You don't need people's permission to use the footage if you don't ask them to do anything, if you don't direct them, if you just film them in a public place. But if you do ask them to do something, then you have to get an appearance release form. Judy Hochberg wrote, what if you don't want to use the actual people you interviewed, but would like to use an interview approach in the video? I think I answered the question as well. You can use the text of your dissertation, but have it read by somebody else, either a voiceover person or maybe a relative, or use an AI-generated voice. You cannot use the voice of the original participants because IRB protocol prevents that, lest they be identified by the quality of the voice. Miguel, what are the phases of testing, editing, and distribution of a film? I think I've addressed that though, but he also says, is there something analogous to a pilot? No, I don't do pilots. I'm very fortunate in a sense that when a network or a platform like the Great Courses commissions me to do a film, I submit a script for their review quite clearly. But then when they approve the script, off I go and I produce the TV series. I don't like pilots. I also don't like rough cuts. I don't do rough cuts. When I send something in, and I say it's a rough cut, people say they have an entirely different look at that documentary. They say, oh, it's a rough cut. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's a little rough. No, I always give what I deliver is a final cut. And of course, there will be comments and feedback. That's fine. But I never say it's a rough cut, because then people have an entirely different attitude to the video that you're seeing. So don't call anything a rough cut. And I talked about distribution, like Vimeo, and Spotify, Buzzsprout, and YouTube as well. Again, there's nothing wrong with YouTube. You can do both. You can do YouTube and Vimeo both. There is no limit to that. There's no exclusivity to that. You can just put it on as many distribution platforms as possible. Shira says, what do you recommend as the best crowdfunding site for documentary style projects? Yes, I used crowdfunding. I used GoFundMe to fund the first of my three Leonardo da Vinci films. It was an expensive production. We had actors, we had costumes from the 15th and 16th century. We used permits to film in the historical centers of cities in Florence and Pistoia. So it was an expensive production. I think it came to about $80,000. But I raised a lot of that through crowdfunding. In this case, GoFundMe, but there are many, many other wonderful crowdfunding sources. What you do is if you want to raise funding for your documentary through crowdfunding, you gotta do a little 2 to 3, 4 minute promo. Just you. If you want to edit some music in it and everything and some pictures from your dissertation, that's great. That's great. But the most important thing is that they see you talking about your documentary and why you want to produce it. They want to get a sense of your sense of scholarship, of being a reliable academic and being someone who's going to deliver. If I put money into this crowdfunding thing, is this person going to deliver? So these are things you want to address. In your video, you post that video on the crowdfunding site and you wait. And, I was lucky because my promo piece that I uploaded used lots of art of Leonardo da Vinci and music and all that stuff, which you can easily do yourself. So I hope that will work. And I think we've come to the end of our show. I hope that this seminar has been useful for you. I really hope that you produce a video, whatever it is, about your research because you deserve it. Use it to broaden your reach to your audience. Use it to promote your career as a scholar practitioner. Thank you so much for spending the time with me, and I hope you have a wonderful experience producing your first show. Thanks so much, and take care.